Excellent. Well, thank you all very much for being here. So uh, we always need to start these sessions by saying that our AE team are absolutely the backbone of CAIS. You are really where it all happens. We have an amazing team, and it is our absolute pleasure and privilege to work with all of you. We've put quite a lot of work since Dennis and I came on board in June last year into refreshing the AE team, and we believe we have the most diverse and representative editorial team of any major IS journal, and that's something that we're extremely proud of. We're also always happy to take recommendations. We've got a pretty strong team at the moment, but it doesn't mean there's not room for new people or new people to add to the list in the event that we get vacancies. So if you know of anyone that you think would be a great fit for the journal, by all means, let us know, and please feel free to make recommendations. We have had a large number of our great team have come on the recommendation of existing AEs. So CASE started in 1999 as an electronic journal. Its mission was to foster the free flow of ideas. It has an emphasis on originality, sort of importance and cogency of ideas. And it also had a mission to be a vehicle for the kind of materials that are of general interest to the community, but that are not necessarily published by other journals. So things like tutorials and debates and commentaries and workshop reports. So our vision is that we have a broad purview. So we welcome papers that may not fit exactly in traditional journals. So we get this interesting research that people are like, I wasn't quite sure where to send this, so I thought I'd send it to you. We aim for an inclusive mindset on topics and paper styles and genres. So, we do occasionally desk reject things through lack of fit, but on the whole, we so long as the authors have made some effort to demonstrate the relevance to our audience and our community, we try and be inclusive. A key value proposition, and I know one that sometimes causes a bit of angst for our AE and review team as well as for ourselves, is the rapid turnaround. And so we don't encourage long drawn-out pipelines and multiple review rounds. And we know also that this is a value proposition for authors, because we do get people who say, we have selected CAIS because we have sort of breaking news, if you like, leading edge topic, and we want to get it out quickly. So we know this is a strong value proposition, and it's something that we are very committed to. And we also have a strong commitment to constructive and developmental reviewing. So we try and offer people a way forward or some suggestions, even if the way forward is not necessarily to a sort of immediate publication in CAIS. And so these are just a couple of quotes from our advisory board. So we have a fantastic advisory board too. So this I love. When I think of CAIS, I think interesting. So this was Shirley Gregor's perception. I'm not actually sure whose quote this is. I think it might have been Fred, the former editor-in-chief, Fred Niederman, that we should be a rigor gatekeeper, but not an ideology gatekeeper. So we encourage original novel research papers, tutorials on novel technologies, methodologies, or concepts, commentaries, opinions, and debates. And we have just recruited a new and very dynamic debate editor, who you can probably see more about that on the website. And he's kicking off some very interesting debate topics. we're a very large education department, so education and pedagogical scholarship. And we also publish panel and workshop reports from leading AIS conferences. We have currently 2 different types of review. So CAIS is, as you'll all be aware, is single blind, so the authors' identities are disclosed. So authors can request either a regular peer review or an editorial review. So regular peer review, you will manage this, goes out to you, you select reviewers, the reviews come back, you synthesize them, make a recommendation. And most of you have probably handled 1 or more editorial reviews where you, as the AE, conduct the only review. This used to operate at the author's request, but we came to realize that some authors sort of saw it as perhaps a little bit of a potentially an easy path through the review pipeline. So we reserve that decision to ourselves now. So even if authors request editorial review, we don't always grant it. We make a decision whether we believe the paper would benefit from peer review. We also are prepared to take your advice on this topic as well. So if you get a paper for editorial review and you believe that it would really benefit from peer review, you may send it out to reviewers. So there's some sort of wiggle room in there. The editorial review is ideal for things that are not likely to prove terribly controversial. So supposing we are fortunate enough to be offered a commentary paper by a very high profile scholar on some topic that they're an expert in, then it's relatively unlikely that it's going to have serious flaws. It's possible that we may struggle to get reviewers who are more qualified than the author to review the paper, so it's very much a case of just sort of working with the author to polish it. Those kind of situations lend themselves very well to editorial reviews. Sometimes workshop and panel reports lend themselves to editorial reviews. So it's an area that we've been working with a little bit to try and make it work best for us, for you, and for the authors. We also have been considering, because we're halfway there already, offering an open identity review option where the whole team will, all the names will be disclosed. Because the author's names are already disclosed, and we have the option when the paper is published of indicating which AE handled it. So you have the option of disclosing your name. The only really missing ingredient in that would be the reviewers. This would be fully optional, of course. It would be opt-in. We're working with someone who's got a lot of open science expertise on this sort of possibility, but it just hasn't kind of moved very much for the last little while. It's a bit of a work in progress, but we'll keep you posted on that. Certainly, if we get to the point where we're ready to start a pilot, of course we will let you all know. These are the departments: debate, design. We get a lot of design science papers, history and philosophy, smaller, education, very big department, panel and workshop reports, and digital health, which is a very rapidly growing area. We get a lot of submissions. Here are some numbers, and now, David, are these? I was just have we pulled these updated these recently? I just couldn't quite remember when was the last time we updated these, but they probably won't have changed very much. So decision time turnaround about 40 days, really quick. I mean, if you've had papers and pipelines for major journals that can take years, so you can see why people choose us. Average number of rounds to final decision, 2. The acceptance rates vary quite a bit across the different departments, and you can see the panel and debate submissions are very high, and I think this is one of the reasons why for the ranking of CAIS, if rankings are important to you, because you can see that the regular research submissions and so on are all fairly commensurate with the other major and high-ranked IS journals, but because we do handle these other kinds of papers which tend to have a higher acceptance rate, it makes our overall acceptance rate is a bit higher than some of the other AIS journals.
Can I just add on that point, Mary, as well? If we were to strive to change the journal ranking to a 3-star ABS ranked journal, for example, well, then we would be forced to remove accepting papers such as panel reports. So, we're staying true to the founding principles of the journal by having this as a platform for the entire IS community. And that's why we're not pushing for this to become a 3-star ABS ranked journal, so that we can continue accepting these types of papers that many would consider left field. And I know journals that are currently ranked 2 stars, and they're actually rejecting, for example, systematic literature reviews because they're saying they don't add value. So that's one of the reasons why we want to keep true to the founding principles of the journal.
Absolutely. I mean, when we put up our bid for the co-editor-in-chief, we were absolutely clear that we do not want to be JAIS light. I mean, that is not what CASE is all about. So we did had then and have now a very clear picture of what we want the journal to be, and you are all an absolutely essential part of that. So some of the things we've done: we refreshed the editorial board. We talked about that. We refreshed the advisory board, so you can have a look at them on the website. But a number of people on the advisory board had been there for a while and were ready to retire. So we brought a number of new people on board. All of them have agreed to take on an active role, and indeed we actually have had occasion to reach out to them once or twice about matters of policy or process. And so they're there as a resource for you and for us. So, if you get anything sticky or controversial, we do have a great team of highly experienced scholars that we can refer to if we need to. I think we've largely covered this. So some of our goals is to make CAIS as diverse and inclusive as possible, and we are actively trying to increase the representation of underserved communities in the journal, support the Millennium Development Goals, nurture new and emerging research topics. So we like to be a journal of choice for leading edge or new or emerging areas. And as I said, because we offer a quick turnaround time, we are sought out often by authors for that reason. Potentially support open science goals. Increase the reach with use of the AIS video channel and the YouTube channel. So we're trying to have more social media and video presence, and David's going to talk about that a bit more in a minute. And also to create career development opportunities for our AEs and authors. So we have a very interesting mix on the AE team of some extremely experienced scholars of many decades with very extensive editorial experience, but also a reasonable number of people for whom CAIS is their first editorial appointment. And so we're trying to get some things in place to create opportunities for people on our team. So, for example, we've been on request developing like service summaries. So if people are putting up a promotion or tenure application, we'll summarize the service, the number of papers that you've handled and all that kind of thing. Or, where if you have other things that you would like to be involved potentially in sponsoring a special issue or something like that, where we very much try and create these opportunities for the people on our team. I just wanted to very quickly go through, these are just some of the questions that I've received in the last few months on a reasonably regular basis. So can I desk reject? Absolutely, you can. Dennis and I do it quite often. I think I've desk rejected at least 20 manuscripts. If it's very clear there's no chance it will survive the review process, then you do need to explain why and be as developmental as possible. But absolutely. So if I'm not sure, I haven't desk rejected it, I've thought maybe there's something in there, I've sent it out and you've received it as an AE, but when you look at it, because it may be closer to your area of expertise than mine, you may be able to see critical reasons why it's absolutely not going to survive. That's fine. You're not obliged to send it out for review if there is no hope that it's going to make it through the review process. Interesting one. Can I make a revise and resubmit recommendation? Yes, sort of. And we do this quite often too. Because we discourage multiple review rounds and aim for a fast turnaround, it's not unusual to get something that's been in the pipeline. It perhaps isn't quite heading in the right direction. That's a reject. But sometimes we sort of leave the door open to the authors and say, look, if you end up writing a related but slightly different manuscript that is a sort of successor to this one, in which you're able to correct the issues, by all means, have another go. Resubmit it, explain in your cover letter what you've done. So this is an option, particularly if you see something that just doesn't seem to be heading in the right direction, but does have something that's a sort of a kernel that's worth developing. Typical pipeline would be often a major revision initially. Then usually when that comes back, it will be reconsidered by hopefully the original review team. Then minor revision, which may or may not be re-reviewed, it might just be checked by you, and then an accept. Now, I recommended a major revision. The paper has come back. It still has serious issues. This is a complicated scenario, and so I'd like to sort of park that and perhaps come back to it at the end of the other questions. The perfect person to be a reviewer is already an AE. Yes, you can ask. Just remember they're as busy as you are, but before I had this role, when I was AEing, I used to go to Jorge Vermin very regularly for PLS issues because he is a world expert, and he was already serving as an AE. So there's no restriction on that if they're the perfect person. Poor review quality. This is probably, like, across the whole ecosystem, probably one of the biggest challenges. And I guess we need to be very, very clear that you are responsible for review quality. And mostly they're great, but we do sometimes get recommendations and accompanied by very weak reviews, and that's a very awkward situation to be in, because like we're at the point then when we ought to be ready to issue a decision, but if the decision is on a shaky foundation because the reviews are not very strong, you know, what happens then? Because if we then need to sort of reopen it, go back to you, seek new reviewers, it's definitely going to push out the pipeline. So please make sure your reviewers clearly understand what is expected, especially if they're new or inexperienced. And one of the things that we've also been trying to do is start to build some resources, but you know, it's all time. Yeah, so check them. If they're not at the expected standard, you've got a couple of options. So you can go back and, you know, ask them to expand or develop it a bit more. You can seek another person, or in some cases, just simply step in. And this happens quite often as well. So let's say you have one quite weak review and one very valuable one. The valuable one is very well aligned with your independent reading of the paper, so it's not like it's controversial. Then don't worry about going out again. It's probably not going to change the decision. Then you can write an extended AE report, which effectively acts as the second review, and that enables the paper to to move, a decision to be facilitated without the delay of seeking an additional reviewer. How many reviews do I need? 2 are sufficient. In the worst case, one good one plus your own detailed evaluation may serve. Can you submit to CAIS? Yes, please. There's easily a big enough team to avoid any conflicts. Will it help my CV? We certainly hope so. We're happy to do whatever we can to talk up your service to support your tenure or promotion application. What other responsibilities do I have? So managing the review process is obviously at the heart, but we encourage you to be ambassadors for the journal. So, you know, sort of have the journal in mind at conferences and workshops. If you see a great paper, go up to the authors, and when you're shaking their hand and telling them how much you enjoyed their presentation, say, and I think your paper would be an amazing fit for CAIS. You know, please consider sending an extended version. Sometimes that's all the encouragement that people need. Sometimes they haven't necessarily thought about exactly where they're going to place their paper next. And, you know, and so just getting in and inviting them to submit sometimes will mean that we get the submission as opposed to, you know, one of the other major journals. Recommend new team members, sponsor special issues. Talk to us first, because we do have a pipeline of special issues in progress. Keep an eye on the website. Follow and promote the journal on social media channels, and encourage your colleagues and students to do likewise. And, you know, if you post about your positive experiences with the journal, and encourage your authors to make author videos. Now, another thing we get quite a lot of questions about is things that have a lot of text in common with a conference paper, and this really it annoys a lot of reviewers, it annoys a lot of AEs, and because we're among friends here, it annoys us as well. You know, it always seems like a kind of cheeky thing to do to sort of just get CV lines, if you like. And we've had some considerable correspondence with AIS about this, but AIS policy currently has been that they encourage the conference to journal pipeline, and that they accept that this can include considerable amounts of text carried directly from the conference paper to the journal paper. We disputed this and had some correspondence with them. It seems like it may be softening a little bit, and we're hoping to have the opportunity to bring out our own CAIS policy on the topic, which will be a lot clearer for everybody involved. But we've got to, I mean, AIS are basically our managers, if you like. The AIS Council are our senior management, so we have to have them on board with what we do in this respect. So that's an ongoing correspondence that we're having with them. Again, as soon as anything is finalised, we will certainly let you know. Getting things out of AIS has been, I mean, they're great. Actually, all the individuals we're dealing with are wonderful, but they're extremely busy people as well, and their sort of responsiveness sometimes to our inquiries has been quite, sometimes quite lengthy. Don't suffer in silence. I guess that's a absolutely key message. There is a very strong team behind you. All of your peers, Dennis and myself, and a very, very strong advisory board. So if you need help, please reach out. So that's the end of the things that I had prepared. I think David has a few things that he would like to go through, and then we'll open it up for some general conversation, and we can go back to some of these what happens in the sort of complicated decision scenarios as well.
Okay, thank you, Mary. Welcome. I see Andrew is logging on here too. He just got in. So I don't have a lot to go over with you tonight. Well, tonight for me, but I do want to just draw. Hi, Andrew. Hi, welcome. I do want to draw your attention to some resources that we have available to you as AEs and to our authors, and also to plug our social media, which we do care about and we use. And so I want to provide those links for you, and I want to take you to those web pages real quick. While I'm doing this, as Mary said, if you're, don't suffer in silence, reach out. On the technical side of things, I'm a good point of contact for that. So if you have any issues, say with ScholarOne, questions, or you run into any problems, reaching out to me might be the first best step for those kinds of things before you go to even technical support, because there's so much that we have access to in ScholarOne in terms of the back end that we can do for you quickly too. Which matters in the review process. So if you have technical issues with anything related to ScholarOne, please do reach out to me via email, and I will happily take care of it as quickly as possible. So I'm going to put some links in the chat here, and I'm going to actually take you to these web pages. But if you wanted to follow along, you can here. Okay. So those are just some links. For some reason, the font is huge on my end, but anyway, they're available for you. I'm going to go to those web pages right now here. So this is our LinkedIn page. If you are active on LinkedIn, please do follow us. And if we share or post relevant information and you are active on the site, please do share it. We use this to promote the research that we publish, to promote our editorial staff, to promote the journal. And we have a pretty significant reach on our social media, and we're very active on it. So please do share it and follow us if you could. In addition to that, this is our YouTube channel, and we would also like it if you could like and subscribe to our channel as well. We really do actually post a lot of content on our YouTube channel, unlike a lot of people. We pretty regularly post videos, author videos. We just posted 2 of the Paul Gray Award winners. We have videos and interviews with our AEs on there. And so it's active. And if you also had things you wanted to share with the community, if you had an idea for something and you wanted to send it to us, we use the YouTube channel to promote the journal. And if you had ideas about things and you wanted to share them with us, please do. We'd be happy to have those. So another resource for you is our website itself. And you can see that we have some YouTube videos linked on our website. These are also on our channel as well. And these are tutorials, and some of them are just extended explanations of the mission of CIIS. Last time we did this orientation, I did an extended 20-minute walkthrough on ScholarOne in terms of basically how it works. And then I also did an extended tutorial on how to find reviewers using the ScholarOne system. That is, finding reviewers who might not be in your network, using ScholarOne to do that, because it has functionalities. If you're curious, those resources are available to you. And I would also offer to just simply sit down with you and take you in and show you these things if you wanted to. You could say, hey, David, can we just sit down and go over this? And I have time I can set aside to do that for you. It's part of what I do. So we also have our editorial board webpage that we like to keep updated as well. If you need your profile to be updated, let us know. If you change an institution or change an email, please do let us know. We like to keep our records up to date. Sometimes we need to get information to you quickly, so we would appreciate that. Now what I'm going to do is just simply step aside and say, if you have any questions about ScholarOne, I can also work with you on that and help you. And Dennis and Mary also are very talented with ScholarOne too. So if you had any questions about that, I would, or questions generally for me, I would be happy to field that now.
Okay, well, I think we can open it up. Does anybody want to lead off just with any sort of experience, questions, but also any experience you've had, perhaps with one of the more gnarly kind of papers where, it's come back for the second time and it's still not really right, and how you've handled it and what you've done about it. Any thoughts or contributions that anyone would like to make?
I
Please.
think, Mary, rejecting a paper at any stage is very difficult. But I think, if we can write a very good review to help authors understand why it's been rejected, I think is more important. That I call it this developmental feedback. Even if you're rejecting a paper, do provide insights so they can learn for future research. Don't just say, oh, there's no contribution to your study. Maybe recommend 2 or 3 papers that talks about what is the contribution. So now they can say, oh, actually, I thought this is a contribution, but it's not. And you're talking, a few authors like Rowe, Franz Rowe wrote a paper on what is a contribution, a few other authors like that in the IS circles. So anything that can help authors develop their own research would be very much appreciated as well. And you can write that in as part of your AE report, recommending particular papers. Maybe not just on contributions, but maybe there's a stream of literature that they could maybe consider in developing the next version of the paper and so on?
Yeah, I've got a sort of rule of thumb that I use, which is that if it would be a substantially different paper by the time they had carried out all the revisions that we believe they need to make, you know, so if it would have a different argument and a different contribution, it's probably a reject, which doesn't mean it doesn't have a path forward. It just means it doesn't have a path forward right here, right now at CAIS, you know. So if you get something back and it's still got issues, but you can you know, you can see that if they backfilled it with more literature, you know, made the, you know, there is a contribution, but they haven't articulated it very clearly, so they explain it better, you know, or, you know, so things that may be reasonably significant but doable, and that don't sort of change the sort of basic contribution of the paper, then I think that can go forward. But if you find you're writing a, you know, a review which, if they were, or a recommendation that if they were to follow at all, they would come out with something that didn't really resemble the paper that you have been handling so far, it's probably that's a decline. Probably, unless you have, and I mean, the other thing that sometimes happens is that we sometimes get a really committed team. So sometimes we'll get reviews back saying, oh, you know, it's got all these issues, but it's really interesting and I'd really like to see it published. Well, you know, if there are reviewers in an AE who are really on board and are really prepared to keep working with the authors, of course that's not for us to, you know, to discourage that. That's absolutely in the spirit of, you know, the scholarly community. So if you have a really supportive review team who are saying, look, you know, maybe they've sent you a personal note saying, you know, there's still issues, but you know, I'd really like to see the paper progress, that's a good enough reason to move forward with it. You know, so they're difficult decisions. They luckily don't happen sort of that often, but you know, my heart always sinks a little bit when I see something that says it's R2 and comes back with a major revision recommendation. All very quiet. Did you have things you would like to share, contribute, tips, thoughts, questions?
Just appreciate what you guys have been doing with the journal as you've taken over. I know being co-editors is always hard. You know, the I thought you were doing this, I thought you were doing this, but you know, I certainly have appreciated the quality and the quantity of the papers that you sent to me, and didn't really have any questions. It felt like I should probably show up more than anything else.
Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Andrew.
I know, Abdullah, you're new to the journal. Your role, how are you assimilating into that role over the last couple of months? I'd just be interested to know your own experiences.
So I think it's going smooth with the panel reports. David helped me with some of the technical things, so I think it's going smooth. Good.
Excellent. And we know that you're also very busy, so we try not to overload you with papers. But if it comes to a point where you're saying, look, I'm just not available for the next 2 months, 3 months, but for whatever reason, just let us know and we can put a kind of a hold on your name. We've done that in the past. I know, Limor, you might have seen a drop in papers being assigned to you because we know you had moved. So we're just trying to ease the pressure there on you. So
Thank you, much appreciated.
And don't be afraid to chase after reviewers too. I know they get automated reminders to them, but even after that, they need sometimes a direct follow-up. maybe they forgot about the review, or maybe they're no longer available, even though they agreed to do it, or have agreed, they've completed one round of reviews and they're not available anymore. So feel free to chase after people in that sense. You know, we don't want to be, you know, waiting 60, 90 days for somebody to complete an overdue review, which has happened in the past for different reasons. And we're really trying to streamline the review process to also keep true to the founding principles of the journal, which is prompt turnaround and publication.
I have seen, you know, because on the dashboard we can see the whole history of, you know, who you've approached and, you know, who's accepted and all that kind of thing. And certainly looking through the dashboard, it does appear that, you know, perhaps getting reviewers is getting a little bit more challenging. Certainly it's not uncommon to see people have had, you know, quite a number of it's quite common that at least one of the person that's approached will decline the request. Have you noticed from the AE perspective any changes or challenges in getting reviewers?
I think trying to get good reviewers is getting harder, Mary. I know in the kind of the shake-up of the editorial board that we did over the last couple of months, we brought through a number of junior scholars from across the 3 regions of AIS. And some of them were quite surprised, I think, with their best friends in academia that they invited to a review, and the review was really poor quality or is overdue. So, you know, the advice we gave people was to kind of start building your own kind of database of reviewers that you can work with over the years. And that seems to be working well for some people. But certainly, it's very disappointing when you get back a 1 paragraph to, you know, make major changes or to reject a paper. Because it's not fair. It's not fair on you as an AE, but also it's not fair on the authors. But certainly we have noticed that it's getting everyone's just busy at the moment, and they have been very busy since post-COVID. The summer downtime seems to be gone across the 3 regions. The academics are now just working, you know, 3-4 terms a year. So we're just trying to be cognizant that everyone has a heavy workload.
Something you may find just useful. It's a statistic that I trot out regularly. Is just to remind people how many people handle a manuscript. You know, so if people are unwilling to review or they're too busy or whatever, every submission that someone makes to a journal is going to be handled by an absolute minimum of 4 people, right? 2 reviewers, an AE and an editor-in-chief, and that's a minimum. And often those people will handle it more than once, or there may be more people involved for various reasons. And a lot of people forget that, you know, that you need to be reviewing at approximately the rate of, you need to be reviewing at the rate of like about 4 to 1, just to break even. You know, so for every submission that people make, they ought to be handling about 4 reviews, just to break even in the academic ecosystem. And a lot of people just, you know, don't. You know, they probably think that if they're doing about as many reviews as they are making submissions, then they're you know, pulling their weight in terms of service. It's simply not the case. You know, it's the need for reviews is, you know, is extremely high, and as people come under pressure for promotion and tenure and performance metrics, of course they submit more. You know, I mean, there are more papers being published by, you know, I mean, I haven't got the numbers at my fingertips. I was working on them for something else I was doing, but there's an absolute explosion in the number of scientific papers being published. You know, so I mean, and then you need to multiply that by, you know, as I said, by 4 to get an idea of the demand for review. So it's very, very considerable. Yes,
Yes.
Matthew.
Yeah, something I noticed in the last year or so, and it didn't happen before. Like I've worked as an AE for CIS for some years, but it's reviewers declining after the first round. So I have reviewers who decline for the first round, like, but usually when they commit to review the papers, they go like through the process, especially because it's a short process. Usually at CIS, it's only 2, sometimes 3 rounds, but no more than that. But it happened quite often in the last year. So I don't know if it's something that you notice also for other papers. Maybe it's just my papers, so my AE report. I say don't like it. I don't know. No, but yeah, that I had a question about that. Something I noticed. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean,
More common, I would say. Yeah. Sorry.
So Matthew, is it that they would do one review
Yes.
and then disappear after that?
And then disappear. And sometimes it's not reviewers who were negative about the papers. They were quite positive, so like maybe they had major reviews, some comments, but were generally positive about the paper. Like some I understand, like sometimes they are not very happy about the direction, or they wanted to reject the paper twice, so you can understand that the decline. But yeah, something that was more common for me in the last year. They accepted the first round, did a review, and then they just disappear, never answer or decline. I don't know.
Yeah, that has happened to me once, twice in the last year. So, you know, all you can do is, if you've gone through, for example, first round, they've made major changes, then the reviewers disappeared. You know, as Mary said earlier in her slides, you can then step in as that second person to just continue developing the paper with the authors to bring it through the second round of review. And just, you know, you could let the authors know, say, look, in this round of review, it's been assigned to one reviewer simply because so-and-so is not available.
Yeah. Yeah, it's usually what I do, or sometimes I try to find someone else.
Yeah.
But it's not easy as a new reviewer also when the paper is on round 2.
no, it's not.
To jump in, so it's sometimes harder to find someone. But I don't know if it's it never happened to me before. It seems to be more common. That's why it's my comment, I would say.
And also, Matthew, just, you know, as AEs, you do have a sense of power as well, in the sense that the reviewers would give their feedback, but it's ultimately you that makes the recommendation.
Yes.
So, you know, a reviewer might come back and reject the paper. Somebody else says major changes. You can say, well, I think it's going to be major changes, or you might decide to reject. But once you can make a strong case for it, I think that's really what's really important.
Yeah. Thank you.